Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by South Point Dodge. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, and I'm joined every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Tell us where you're checking in from this morning, what you're drinking, get your questions in. Got a loaded show here to cap off your work week. And guys, the portal also caps off today as it closes later tonight. So what's the latest there?
Oh, there's a lot. It is the never-ending wheel of changing times. A lot happened since we visited with you last on Coffee and Football yesterday. Texas gets a commitment from Melvin Ciani, a offensive lineman out of Wake Forest, left tackle that will probably play right tackle or guard at Texas. I know that people think he's absolutely a guard, but Brandon Baker may be competing for that job first and foremost. And all that happened after he even went in the portal after we left, got off the air here, and then immediately went in the portal, and Texas signed him in the minutes, or basically in the hours following. It's a big pickup for Texas because we've been wondering, Jerry, what the Longhorns are going to do at offensive line. They now have 3 OL commitments in Ciani, Jonte Newman from Texas A&M, as well as Dylan Sikorsky, an interior offensive lineman from Oregon State. This gives Texas 1 starter potentially at outside, 1 inside. They're still looking for others on the interior as we speak right now. We'll see if any of those guys pop loose in the portal later today, or if Texas brings some in over the weekend. Texas also brought in Melvin Barton, the offensive lineman out of Jackson State. Texas did not get a deal done with him yesterday. He is expected to be at Mississippi State later today. We can also talk about Jordan Seaton here in a moment, the 5-star elite offensive tackle, and what's going on now with his recruitment, although it doesn't sound like Texas is going to be a major factor, at least not at this point. Jerry, your takeaway from the signing of Melvin Ciani yesterday, the young man out of Wake Forest.
Yeah, look, I think he's really can be a high-end pass protector. I think as a run blocker, I think there's still some inconsistency there. Younger football player. I think he needs to make a jump there, not get caught leaning, lunging at times in the run game, but a good player, good athlete. He comes from that network, that Brandon Collier, who we've had on here before, who does a lot of work getting international kids to the States to play football in college or finish up their high school career, like Hero Canoe. Obviously, Melvin Ciani is in that same family. So there's a connection to Texas there through Brandon Collier. So I think that was helpful for Texas. A guy that Wake Forest 100% mid-December thought they were getting back. And that's just the way of the portal right now. And look, I think he's coming in to play tackle. I was told that. So, which, if that does come to pass, then Brandon Baker kicks in to a guard spot. On Jonte Newman, he could end up as a developmental tackle or developmental guard. I think that is definitely up in the air for what I was informed of yesterday. Obviously, Sikorsky is a guard. On Jordan Seaton, I think he's going on a visit tour. I think anything could happen with that recruitment. I think people will jump in, people will jump out, people will jump back in, people will jump back out. But this is, as of yesterday evening, it was said to be a visit tour coming up for Jordan Seaton. So this one may play out a while. And Texas has still been in contact with him yesterday. That I can confirm.
Okay, guys, more to talk about. But first, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone about South Point Dodge this morning.
I can do that. Thank you so much. Get to the point at South Point Dodge right now. They have a special going on that they're extending. It was the Christmas special. They've extended it into the new year for you and yours. So make sure you check them out over at South Point Dodge. Longhorn fans, the wrap-up sale of the year is still ongoing because they're carrying it into 2026. If you've been thinking about upgrading your ride, now's the time. We're talking big price reductions on Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s, plus Jeep Wranglers and Grand Cherokees. And here's the kicker. On Texas football listeners, get 90 days before your first payment, and South Point Dodge will ship your ride anywhere you are. Over 600 vehicles in stock, ready to roll for tailgates or holiday road trips. Check them out at southpointdodge.com or just swing by their location I-35 in South Austin. Get to the point at South Point Dodge. Thank you for their sponsorship of Friday's Coffee and Football.
Well, lots of questions in the chat regarding the portal, such as the Ole Miss defensive end, of course, Seton as well. So what else do we have as far as the portal goes?
Jerry, you tell folks about Princewell Unamamilian, the Maynard product.
Yeah, there's been a lot of questions about him, the edge linebacker that when it announced his plans to go in the portal yesterday out of Ole Miss. He signed with Nebraska out of high school. He is the younger brother of Princely Unamamilian out of Manor, who Texas went after big time at high school, ended up at Florida. He's currently in the NFL, obviously. But Prince Will is a guy that has Texas attention. It's like anything else in the portal. It comes down to, all right, what's your ask from an NIL perspective? Are there any demands attached to that? And how ultimately is your fit? But I can tell you Texas has interest in Prince Will. Where those conversations obviously have to go down the path of, okay, this would be a fit and everything would work out. I can tell you this, and I'm not saying this is the deal with Prince Will, but anytime, and this is what we mentioned, I've been mentioned for 2 days with Caleb Herring, when everybody's saying, oh, he's going to visit. It's being reported he's going to visit. And I kept saying, that's a maybe. That thing's gone back and forth. I think early on when Herring went in the portal, he wanted to go somewhere that he was guaranteed he was going to start. Well, I said yesterday that Will Muschamp is not playing that game. So that's why that visit was up in the air and it had gone back and forth. Well, obviously, Caleb Herring committed to South Carolina yesterday, which we felt like it was 50-50 if he was actually going to get out of the plane and come to Austin for reasons we talked about. So with Prince Will, Texas likes him as a player. He can really rush the quarterback. He had 9 sacks last year, but it still has to be a fit. It still ends up having to be a fit with Prince Will and defensive coordinator Will, maybe Prince Will of Austin soon, and in general in the program. So where that process, where those conversations go are going to absolutely be the key.
Second leading returner in the SEC in sacks last year with 9. Obviously, Colin Simmons, the leader there. So could be a big potential for Texas there. Seton is not expected to visit today as of right now that we're aware of. Could things change? Absolutely. This is crazy town right now, guys. I wish I could tell you everything that we know and don't know, but there are things that we hear, and frankly, I don't know everything that's going on right now because it is moving so quickly. I will tell you that, as I repeated earlier, getting Melvin Ciani changed the calculus for Texas at tackle. They now have 3 tackles that have experience. It's not a need position. So putting as much financial emphasis on it going further may take away from some financial pieces they could do at other positions. Long story short, right now, we'll see if anything comes of it. But I think that Longhorns and Seton are, I don't want to say that's dead because I don't think anything in this thing is ever dead.
Yes.
But we will see where it goes from here. And if the Longhorns pick up that mantle, but that would be a lot of financial commitment to what is, I mean, in my opinion, a position that now has 3 pretty good players at it, with one really good one with Trevor Gooseby, and then 2 that have experience starting at tackle as well, and Ciani and Brandon Baker. It might be overkill if you have 4. So we'll see what happens.
Hey, I want to distinguish something on a little difference here. Stuck in Boulder weather. Give me Lance Jacks over Prince Will all day. The only thing I want to say to that is they're different. They're different players. They're not the same player. But when Texas is in a 3-man front, and this is just kind of going to continue to be my thought and what I say on that, think of Lance Jackson more in a Michael Williams position, where Michael Williams played for Georgia. Prince Will and Lance Jackson are not the same player. and you're in a 3-4 when you have your overhang outside linebackers, which Colin Simmons is one of those. That's what a Prince would play in Muschamp's 3-man front scheme. So I think there's a difference. Lance Jackson is a power end in a 4-man front. In a 3-man front, he's going to move inside and play very similar to what Michael Williams did at Georgia. I'm not saying he'd be that good a player. I'm just saying positionally. So I did want to just say there's a difference in those two guys. They're not the same position. They're not competing for the same snaps if a Prince Will ended up in Austin.
Well, I was going to say this to make it easy for people to understand. Jackson's more likely to have his hand in the dirt.
Yeah.
And Umamelian is more likely to have his hand up off the dirt because he's more of a pass rush specialist. Jackson's that inline 4 technique, in my opinion, that plays over the tackle down, in the 3-point stance.
Well, lost in all this portal talk and portal madness is high school recruiting. And Jerry, you had a interesting note over on TexasFootball.com this morning.
Yeah, so what's interesting, and I've been talking about this, is there's a lot of Division I or even Power 4 level talents that are just falling by the wayside in the portal era. I think part of the job of these college coaches, and with the scholarships going to 105, it does not mean you're using them, but there's a chance that if you continue to evaluate, let's say 26 classes, what's been going on now, despite all the portal additions and all being portal focused ahead of a junior day coming up Saturday, which we'll get to, is Texas does continue to look at both sides of the line of scrimmage and see if there's anybody that they could potentially take late as a developmental player potentially and see where that goes. I think you're going to see some of that coming up here by a number of schools. First guy I'm going to talk about is Angelo DeCinci. He's out of Lombard, Illinois, west of Chicago, about 45 minutes west of Chicago, Montini Catholic. He's been in contact with Coach Flood this week. He's also a Northwestern, Chip Kelly, Jerry Neuheisel Jr., all those guys were at his school yesterday. I think they're about to offer him. He has visited Yale. He's super well. I talked to him yesterday. He's a wicked smart kid now. I mean, that guy will run a business one day. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But a lot of Power 4s, after the dust settled with the portal, after looking at roster, what they need, how they could see a kid like this develop. And I posted his huddle on TexasFootball.com. There's a clip of him dunking the basketball off the dribble on the break. He's 6'5", 275, 280. He's an athletic kid. So Texas has reached out to him. They're looking at him on the offensive line because I do still think there's some spots for guys like this and at the major college football level that could develop over time. Now, a kid like this when schools start to offer him coming up in the next 3 weeks, he's got to decide what does he really want to do. Does he want to go somewhere and go that developmental route? Could he see himself going to a Yale and starting immediately? Then a couple, 3 years in, look at Michael Bennett now from Yale, who wasn't highly recruited out of high school, ends up at Oregon with a tremendous NIL payday. So that's the decision some of these kids are going to have to make. And so that's one. On the defensive line, Elijah Ali out of Downey, California, St. Pius, Texas, Will Muschamp, Kenny Baker, Johnny Nance were all in California yesterday looking at 2027 high school kids. Well, one of the stops also was to see Elijah Ali, a 6'5", 6'4.5", 6'5", 285-pound defensive lineman that's in the 26 class. His recruitment kind of fell off because he ended up getting suspended due to transfer rules in California. He played 4 games as a senior. So he kind of missed a little bit of that recruiting window headed into December with not playing much last year. But a kid that has really good athleticism at his height, San Diego State's offered him. There's some other Power 4s watching him right now, trying to make a decision if they're going to offer him. Some of those in the Big Ten, some of those in the Big 12. And now Texas is taking a look at him. A kid that has a lot of upside. So there's always that possibility on the lines of scrimmage that Texas could add late to this 26 class if it's a kid who says, okay, I'm good with taking a full year, maybe 2 to develop. I'm good with that. And if Texas looks at a kid like this Elijah Ali and said, man, this kid's a high-level athlete. There were some circumstances out of his control and that he could develop into something real. So Texas is still looking for those guys. And I'm personally glad that they're leaving those stone unturned because there's some really talented kids because of the portal that are just getting missed right now. And if they can buy into what you want to do from a development standpoint, you can end up getting some steals long term. And we'll see where it all goes. But it wouldn't be a total shock to me if Texas threw an offer out late on a 26 kid to add some depth and a guy that they think they can develop in a year or two at the college level, because there's still going to be a place for this, because offensive and defensive line, for me, especially offensive line, in the day and age of the portal and NIL, are going to be the toughest position to maintain having your numbers.
And you also updated the list here. You talked about or alluded to it a second ago, but some more key visitors added for the junior day.
Yeah, so Brian Swanson, the first offensive lineman in the 27 class that Texas offered. There's been a lot of people asking, hey, is he about to make a decision? There's been picks in for him around the industry. He is not expected to make a decision early. Texas is very much in him, probably in the best position for him. I would say there's no doubt, after talking to him at Under Armour game, talking to people around him, that Texas is in the best position for Brian Swanson. But he is not expected to do anything soon. That would be barring a big change. As of right now, he's expected to go through that June official visit process like 99% of these kids are going to do. But he does really like Texas. Texas really likes him. Peyton Miller from Anna, #1 center target on the board in 27. Amari Vickerson, defensive lineman from Cy Ranch. His dad played at Michigan State in the NFL, really good. Montre Jackson, one of the most recent 27 offers in state by Texas. This kid can really run. Expected to go 10-4, 10-5 in the 100 meters. Jerry Outhouse from North Crowley. John Meredith's been asked about the third, who's now at North Crowley. He wants to attend. I don't think his family's going to be able to travel this weekend. So if he shows up tomorrow, it's going to be going with teammates or friends. But it's nothing negative on Texas. Family really likes Texas. It's just they've been traveling a lot lately. So I think they're just weren't going to get back on the road this weekend. So we'll see if that changes. One interesting guy of note that I've added to the 27 weekend list, and there's more guys than this, right? There's going to be more confirmations throughout the day and into the junior day tomorrow. It's at Jasper Nagwarkri, the offensive tackle from Richardson. He is a cousin of the Achos, and I saw him first a year and a half ago when I went to see Jamie on Winfield. Jasper Nagwarkri has a ton of athletic ability, is a starter in basketball and varsity, and moves, has really good feet, really good bend. So he is one to watch as a potential offer coming up. We'll see where that goes on that meeting. Kingston Thornton at Parish Episcopal. That's the son of Kalen Thornton, lifetime Longhorn. So some interesting names of note coming in this weekend. But this list is going to be much bigger than what we're showing here. There's more guys on our site that we've put in the thread on TexasFootball.com. But for those wondering, is Brian Swanson going to commit this weekend? Because there's been picks come in for him. That is not expected. He's expected to go through the visit process.
There you go. All right. Looks like Bobby had to step out for a moment, so it's just you and I. We got some super chats that we can jump over to here. And I was actually looking for this. This isn't a super chat, but Antoine says Manny Muhammad to the Senior Bowl. I was looking at their rosters this morning because I was trying to get a list of Texas players, but I haven't seen that, Antoine. So if you're still with us, send me that link if you don't mind in the chat.
Yep.
Let's see here. Arch Nemesis says, what teams have upgraded from the portal that you see as the problem next year, Jerry? Do any compare to Texas?
It's a great question. I mean, look, I think LSU, that's almost a rebuild for LSU, but they've obviously done, I think they've done well in the portal. Look, A&M, I've said this before, A&M has got the NIL. They're going to be competitive every year. They've added 18 players from the portal. They're having to rebuild their offensive line, which is huge for them.
Sorry, guys.
They're really key guys. They've done a pretty good job in the portal, but they have no choice, right? They had the coaching change. John Summerall's done some good things in the portal there. Arkansas's had to totally retool through the coaching change. They lost 37 guys. They picked up 28. But I think when you're looking at it, Tennessee lost 23 guys, picked up only 11 thus far. But I think when you really look at it, LSU is – and it's going to be the challenge is how quickly can they put this together from their standpoint with the new staff. But they've added a number of talented players. They have depth at quarterback now with Sam Levitt and then Longstreet behind him. They brought in Winston Watkins, their little slot that is jet quick from Fort Myers, Venice, Florida area. They've done some really good things in the portal. I think they have some needs remaining. Jordan Ross, they brought in some pretty good, talented guys off the edge. Malik Blockton is a kid Texas liked out of high school. The defensive lineman that transferred from Auburn's still got a high upside about him. So we'll see where it all finishes, right? LSU got Eugene Wilson in, who was a stud at Florida before he started having the injury bug. Can he stay healthy? Jace Brown from Kansas State, very talented wide receiver. The safety from Boise that's going to LSU, Benefield's a really good player. So I kind of looking at LSU right now to see how they finish off their portal class and see how many needs still remain for them after this January 16th time frame. But I would say LSU, Florida's got some really talented pieces, I think, and they've added to it. We'll see where their offensive line goes. But those are the ones, and A&M has to retool their whole offensive line. And they'll be a good football team again. They should be good. A&M and Texas both should be good in the NIL era. There's no reason they should not be annually two of the top 12, 14 teams in the country. That's just the way it should be from an NIL standpoint with A&M and Texas.
I would just say this: the one team that I think is doing a little bit better than maybe people anticipated is Ole Miss. Ole Miss has had a lot of departures. Don't get me wrong. But they picked up Jordan Renaud yesterday, Jerry, the defensive lineman from Alabama. Tennessee is doing pretty good. They picked up a big defensive end that should help them get their pass rush going a little bit better, even though they lost Jordan Ross. I think that most SEC teams are being additive in the portal, with perhaps the exception of Alabama. Alabama's really been getting knocked right now, frankly, on some guys that they didn't want to lose their. Alabama forever, Jerry. Alabama, Georgia, really the last 10 years have had the most depth in college football, especially on the lines of scrimmage. That is gone at Alabama right now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so we'll see what all that means. Couple other things I forgot to mention this, Jerry. CJ Vogel reported last night on Texas Football that both Xavier Filsaime and Michael Terry, the running back athlete out of San Antonio, will both return in 2026 for Texas. So they got their quote unquote deals done, and they are returning. That's some good news for the Longhorns there.
Yeah.
All right, guys. A couple of other super chats. This one from Clifton Hines. He wants to know, what's the timeline of transfer must enroll for spring ball?
So Texas's ad drop date is on January 20th, which is just what? I guess that's Tuesday. Yeah. That's Tuesday, but you can make exceptions through the dean.
Yeah.
And it's gone. I think it's gone as late as January 28th.
Yeah.
In the past, if I'm not mistaken, it went that late for Isaiah Nayor, maybe. But I don't know for sure if that. I don't even know if the same dean is in the place to approve that kind of thing. But to be safe, it's January 20th. After January 20th, if you want a guy in for spring ball, it has to be an exception. And so I'm sure, and I know the Texas staff understands that and are working to make that happen. But don't forget, we could still have guys going into the portal because of the 48-hour or 2-day business rule that go in today or announce they're going in today and give in the paperwork and don't show up in the portal until Tuesday. So what are you supposed to do there? Hey, Jerry, I want to go back to something you said. You talked about young man Melvin Ciani and his tie to Brandon Collier. A lot of people did not know that tie existed. Brandon Collier is, you mentioned Hiro Kanu, that in his trek to the United States and whatnot. Ciani is actually from Canada, right?
Yeah.
Toronto, I think.
Yeah.
Originally, now he played his final year of high school ball in New Jersey at Princeton, New Jersey, and then signed with Temple, went to Wake Forest after that. Brandon Collier has also brought some other guys on campus to Texas last week or 2 weeks ago when it was the high school all-star game down in San Antonio. Is that the tie that you think took Texas to Melvin Ciani?
Yes, I do. I do. I think that's what took Texas there for, and I 100% believe that. And look, I think he is he's a guy that is going to, like you said, there's 27 offensive, defensive line guys that he brought on campus that he had over for the Navy All-America Combine game. Such and he does that. He's really good at that, guys. I mean, really good at that. I mean, remember when we had him on the show talking about Hero Canoe, he was over. I think he was running a camp at somewhere in Africa. I can't remember where he was, but he was over there. He spends a lot of time in Europe, a lot of time in Germany, in the Berlin area. He is a big part of bringing these guys over to the States and placing them into college football. And I think he's a great asset for universities if they'll maximize what he does and how many guys, talented athletes that are new to the game that he can that he's bringing over to the States. Now they need development time, so I think fans in college football now at the portal may have a tougher time having patience with development for some of these guys, but they are very talented athletes that have taken up football late. And I was actually shooting some messages back and forth with Brandon Collier recently, and he said there's more kids than ever that are wanting to play football that he's dealing with around the world, essentially, and that he thinks it's going to continue to grow and grow and grow. So, yeah, I think he was a direct tie to Melvin for Texas and universities, and I think there's going to be a lot of really talented, big-body athletes that are going to be coming to the States in future years.
I was going to say one of them was the big defensive lineman out of that came in through Virginia that is now signed with Georgia. Ended up being a top 10, 20 recruit around.
Falden, yeah. I mean, it should be an NFL player if he stays healthy. He's very talented. Texas liked him a lot, but some of those things it didn't work out because Texas, how many commitments they had at the time.
Bobby, a quick question from you here, or for you, says, where did you get that light up Texas sign behind you?
My wife. I don't know exactly where. If you send me an email at ontexasfootball@gmail.com, I'll have her respond with where she got it from.
Yeah.
But I don't know off the top of my head. Just send me an email and I'll make sure she responds for you. I like it, though. It is cool.
By the way, some people are just coming on the show right now. So I want to answer this. John LaFoe, we get anything new? I talked about Prince Will Emanuelan earlier from Manor, who began his career at Nebraska, has been at Ole Miss. He announced he's going to enter the portal. Texas does have interest there. I mean, he's one of the elite edge outside linebacker pass rushers in college football, had 9 sacks this year. Where it goes, no guarantees, but Texas does have interest in Prince Will, who's originally from Manor High, obviously outside of Austin. So that is a name that went in the portal yesterday, announced they're going in the portal, that Texas definitely has interest in. We'll see where that goes. There's no guarantees. It depends on what you want from an NIL perspective. What are you thinking? If you have any, I call them demands nowadays, because there's some kids going in the portal saying, I'm only visit you if I'm going to be a starter. We haven't heard that about Prince Will, but that is going on in the portal right now. And so anybody that goes, I think, to Texas defensively says, you can get me, but I got to be a starter. Muschamp's not playing that game.
Yeah, I don't think they're doing that. But Texas is too talented to do that with folks.
Yep. And that has affected some recruitments. Some guys that Texas had interest in that they didn't.
Caleb Herring included. You just mentioned him.
Yeah.
And our next super chat this morning comes from Flex. He says, what's the deal with Justice Terry? I can see him being a big defensive end, and once he gets adequate size, kick him inside. Just got to get him on the field.
I think that's exactly what he is. I mean, look, I think there was in Georgia, and I talked to some people at Georgia about how did they see Justice Terry. And obviously they thought different player than Michael Williams, is going to be that 4-eye guy, but could end up weighing 300 pounds. This is way back before Texas was really, truly in on this. And I think that's exactly what Justice Terry. I think Justice Terry is a 4-eye guy. He only showed up in Austin last year at 258 pounds. He had a shoulder injury a little bit, which flared back up late in the season, and then that's why he missed the Citrus Bowl. But he got up into the 272, 274 range and was able to hold his weight all season in that range. I think the hope, the plan now is that he's around 290 next year. So he can slide inside of that, be a disruptive 3, but he can also play that 4-eye 5 in a 3-man front. And that versatility, I think, is going to be his calling card. That is what all the major schools are recruiting him or thinking. But I think he's a really good fit in Will Muschamp's scheme. I'll say that, really good fit. Got to get that shoulder healthy.
All right, guys. Well, I'll tell you what, before we move on, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone this morning about Andy Ludicky and My Perfect Franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're looking to do something new, want a new start in 2026, looking to leave the corporate rat race, or just to own your own business and control your own future, make sure you reach out to Andy Ludicky and his company, myperfectfranchise.net. They help you pair up with the franchise that fits your ability and capacity, how much time you want to spend in a business, what you're good at, that sort of thing. They find the right franchise for you after doing an exhaustive interview, kind of match you up. His number, 404-973-9901, or reach out to him, Andy, at myperfectfranchise.net. Andy will get after it for you and try to find you a business that you can work with. Again, Andy at myperfectfranchise.net.
And I'm going to tell everyone this morning about HexClad, because listen up, if you're making any New Year's resolution this year, there's a good chance that they start in the kitchen. Maybe it's eating healthier, cutting back on delivery, or finally getting rid of that old pan that's been haunting your stove since college. If that sounds like you, it's probably time for a real upgrade. HexClad completely changed the game by combining the performance of stainless steel with the convenience of non-stick, but all in one pan. Most cookware forces you to choose. You either get great performance or easy cleanup, but never both. And that's why I love HexClad. It's because they literally cover all the bases that you want in a pan. You can use metal utensils, you can throw them in the dishwasher or just wipe them clean, and they can handle very high heat up to 900 degrees. New year, new you, new cookware. For a limited amount of time, our listeners get 10% off your order with our exclusive link. Just head to hexclad.com/ontexas, support our show, and check them out at HexClad, HEXCLAD.com/ontexas. Make sure to let them know we sent you. Bon appetit. Let's eat with HexClad's revolutionary cookware. And let's see, we got some more super chats to get to this morning. Jerry's Corn Dog says On3 said this morning that Seton is going to visit Texas. Bobby?
I think Bobby's having some technical difficulties.
That is actually they doing an.
I think so as well. Bobby, I think your connection's messing up this morning.
Who would have guessed my connection would mess up? At last, I mean, this is ridiculous. At least I didn't have, what was it, T-Mobile and Verizon the other day. By the way, I actually was talking to someone that covers recruiting nationally and the portal nationally. And when Verizon had that outage a couple days ago, his cell phone was Verizon. He had to go buy another phone.
Wow.
And use another carrier for a day. He spent 1 hour of his day buying a new phone. Anyways, that would be a headache. Think about that if you were one of those people that were affected by that. His job depended on his phone, and he had to go change it. All right, hey, On3 said this morning Seton is going to visit Texas. That's actually a report that's being.
Everybody in the chat, just write the way you want that to end.
Yeah, just however you want. Oh, he may be back.
I give up, guys.
Hurry before it messes up again.
Anybody have
Bobby is stuck in 3rd and 3 for the next hour. The ball's not going to be snapped to see if he's going to make a first down or not.
Hold on. We got to dial him back in. It's been a while since I've got to play that sound, Jerry. Well, we will save that super chat and we'll come back to it. Let me undo the sound. Look, I told you it was going to work. Here he comes. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
There he is.
That is brutal. I'm not going to chastise my own Wi-Fi provider or whatever. What I was going to say is that is a report from prior to when Melvin Ciani signed with Texas yesterday, and they just recycle it. And so it's not a new report. I will just say this. I can't sit here and tell you that Texas is out of it with Jordan Seaton. I can tell you the calculus has changed fundamentally. That doesn't mean anything more than that. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Texas is out of it or anything like that. Okay? That's not what I'm saying. It's just the calculus has fundamentally changed. And we'll see. Jerry mentioned it. Jordan Seaton's supposed to go on this grand tour of Oregon and the world, right? Look, I think that the bottom line is that the calculus has changed. We'll see if Texas still thinks there's money there that is just worth spending. I'm of the opinion that it's a little bit different than that right now, and have been told that. So we'll see where it goes. But I'm not saying Texas is out of it for Jordan Seaton. However, I think that it's a little bit different than what it was even 24 hours ago. So that's where it's at.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. There was still discussions yesterday after Ciani committed.
Next super chat this morning comes from Tanner. Thank you, Tanner. Appreciate you. He says, on paper, off of pure talent, where do you think this Texas team stacks up all time? Well, that's a loaded question.
Yeah, it's a tough one, Tanner. I mean, not Miami from the early 2000s, not Texas or USC from 05. Not that. It's going to be hard to have teams that had that level of depth of talent. It's going to be almost impossible. So I think from a Texas perspective of what you're looking from an NFL draft perspective next year, if all these guys have healthy, productive seasons and keep ascending, then I think you're looking at a Texas team that could have 4 or 5 first-round picks. Now, what does that mean at the end of the day? Doesn't guarantee anything. But I think from an NFL draft perspective, this Texas team in 2026 is going to have, when all these mock drafts start coming out, Texas is going to have multiple guys in the first round, potentially multiple guys in the top 15, maybe 4 top 15 picks, maybe 2-3 other guys that are mentioned as late first, second possibilities. I mean, this team NFL talent-wise is going to be very gifted next year. What does it mean at the end of the day? Indiana's the team that's undefeated right now in college football, and they're not littered in the NFL draft.
They got good players, though.
Good players.
And they may have 1-1. It may be Fernando Mendoza, Jerry. So a lot can be made up for there. But I just think they're really, really well coached. Blake and Jerry, one thing that you mentioned there, how good is this Texas team? Look, I think that right now they have 3, maybe 4 first-round picks in 2027. So for the 22, I mean, Arch, Colin, Simmons, Trevor Gooseby, Cam Coleman.
Yeah,
that would be 4. And then you can talk about guys like Jelani McDonald in that category. Late first kind of guys. If they grab, what is Ryan Wingo going to do? Because he's
Gene Biles.
Yeah. They're going to test really well. So I'm actually going to say this, outside of having Superman at quarterback, which is what Texas had in 05 with Vince Young. Arch Manning's really good. He's just not – he can't physically take a game over like Vince Young could, right?
Yeah.
there's a could I see a scenario where Texas has 5 first-round draft picks in 2027? Absolutely, and that would be the most Texas has ever had, I think, in the first round. So I think and Jerry mentioned this. He said the depth of those teams in 2005. I agree with him there. You had Jamarl Charles as a true freshman.
It's ridiculous.
And you may not have the depth, but you could have the very top end part of this. As good
I'll throw another one out. I mean, and I'm just saying, as far as guys that are going to be popping up in these mock drafts, I mean, Ty Anthony Smith, does he get up into the 220s weight-wise next year and be able to hold that through the season? I mean, Wingo's draft eligible. Emmett Mosley's draft eligible. Murad Watson, Alex January. Some of those guys are going to take big steps in year 3 of college football under Russ Champ in a different scheme that maybe accentuates some of their strengths in different ways. I mean, Texas is headed for a double-digit NFL draft in 27. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I think you could see up to 7, 8 guys in the first 3 rounds when all's said and done.
All right, Jerry. Hope you have that lampshade handy.
You have to have it handy in portal season. Jeez.
Shy City Horn says, man, y'all about to get some bad weather, by the way. I appreciate all you guys' hard work. 2026 season can't come soon enough. Hook 'em.
Hey, we're about a month away right now, a month and a half away from spring camp starting.
Yeah.
Could start as soon as late February, I'm being told. So we're not that far away from this getting kickstarted for 2026. Obviously, we got to finish portal. But thank you so much, Tri-City Horn. Glad we could help. Glad we could be here for guys. One of the things that's great about this, about the internet, but YouTube in general, is that we get to reach out to people all over the country and world that are fans of the Longhorns, and we can kind of be their place that they congregate and learn about Texas and stay up to date. So Tri-City Horn, I guess, in Chicago there, you're one of those guys. We appreciate y'all as much, or as well.
Rocky P, thank you for your super chat, says, just saw a stat that's crazy if true. There are only 42 early entrants into the draft this year. There were 130 last year. The NIL is changing the NFL too.
And it should. It's money. They finally are competing on the same level, right? For those seniors. Remember when everybody say, well, he's losing his last year. He's going to go take the money. Now that's money for money. They're fighting the same battle for some of these guys. And you have guys like Trinidad Chambliss that want to come back. These quarterbacks are getting paid more guaranteed in college than they will in the NFL draft with their collective bargaining agreement. I kind of wonder if eventually that college football will affect the NFL draft collective bargaining agreement. The NFL's one.
I mean, here's the question I have long term, and I think it's going to happen in my lifetime, but it's getting late. I'm about to be 51. I think this 3-year rule is going to go to 2 at some point. I've always thought that. I think that 3 years removed from high school to the NFL rule is going to, at some point in my lifetime, is going to move to 2. Because Jeremiah Smith will be a top 5 pick this year. What are we really doing here? Like, Adrian Peterson limped around his final year in college with a bad high ankle sprain. He didn't need to be in college 3 years.
Yeah.
I think that rule is going to change in my lifetime. But like I said, I'll be 51 in May, so I am running out of time. I've thought this for 20 years it was going to change, and it still hasn't. But I do think eventually it will go to 2. I mean, it's just there's some guys that are, because of where training is now, nutrition, the guys are bigger, stronger, and faster at an earlier age now. I mean, does anybody think Adrian Peterson couldn't have played in the NFL after 2 years of college? I mean, it's a select few guys, but come on, we know they could have. We know they could have. Jeremiah Smith could go play in the NFL next year.
Yeah, I would say that they probably should, because that would be a way for them to fit. I'm just thinking strategically from the NFL standpoint. That would be a way for them to strategically get the superstars earlier.
Yeah. And it's not going to be a lot of guys, but there may be 20 guys. I mean, honestly,
it's not 20 every year.
No, it's not 20 every year, but let's say you have a great draft class. I mean, does anybody think Colin Simmons couldn't play in the NFL next year? Come on. Of course he could. Dylan Stewart? Of course he could. You could probably name 10 guys right now into this chat that you say that guy could play in the NFL after 2 years of college.
Cam Coleman.
I mean, offensive line it can be a tough spot, but anybody think Jordan Seaton couldn't play in the NFL next year? Come on, he could. Some of these guys don't need 3 years.
The next one this morning comes from Texas Longhorns. Appreciate you. Says, how tricky is this single portal window for grad transfers? And could Texas have some in mind that maybe they're holding out for?
So here's the deal with grad transfers. They actually have to go into the portal, but they don't have to sign until after they graduate. Or they don't even have to sign ever. Actually, they can show up on campus. So a lot of guys that are expected to be grad transfers are actually entering the portal right now. Okay, but they may have to stay and not be able to participate in spring ball because they still have academic work to be done to graduate this semester. So they still have to go in the portal right now, Tex Horns. And so a lot of people see them. I just think you're going to find depth late. That's what I think you're going to find in the portal. You're not necessarily going to find high-end guys. And when I say late, I'm talking about April, May, June even. You may find some guys that are just, look, we need guys to make sure we have enough. So I'm not super concerned about that right now as it relates to grad transfers.
And our next one from Rocky P, once again, thank you again, says, with Texas being so portal heavy this year, spring ball is going to be more important than ever.
I think that's the case for about every team. In today's day and age, you have to start building some of your continuity in the spring. Because I've said before, college football, college air quotes, we're pretty much professional athletics, let's be real, is football is going to mirror basketball seasons. I really believe this long term. Where at the start of a basketball season, it takes you more time to really round in the form. You don't have as long a season as football, but I think it's going to take on kind of a basketball look to it. There's just too much change in rosters every year. And you can't just put this together and be a well-oiled machine game 1 or 2 or 3. I think those days are over. I think it's going to be, look, as good a coach as Cignetti is, they scout great, by the way. As good a coach as he is, he's going to have a monster number of guys that are gone off this team that's playing for a national championship. You don't just roll out and be gel early in the season anymore in football because there's not enough continuity in your program. I think it's a lot of these teams are going to take on more of a look of a basketball team, and you're really going to see that big jump in play after the midway point of the season. I think there's some teams that are going to end up being really, really good, but the first half of the season, they're trying to get this thing put together and get guys in the right places, get everybody on the same page. And it's going to look, to me, it's just going to look more like basketball teams moving forward in the way they're actually build over the course of a season. There's just too much roster turnover, Bobby. There's not enough continuity on these rosters to go year after year after year and look the same early in seasons.
God, I hope it doesn't end up like college basketball. No offense. I know you love college basketball, Jerry, but I hope it does not go that direction. That we need some continuity or more continuity. And I think football lends itself to that because there are so many players, frankly, more so than basketball. There's still going to be that component where you get a good number of players back every year. I think that having spring ball is going to be really important. it's going to be where Arch Manning and Cam Coleman get on the same page. I've said this multiple times on this show that I think that one of the things that hurt Arch in his first 6 games is that he didn't show a lot of compatibility, is not synchronicity with his wide receivers early. The only one he showed any kind of understanding of where he was going to be was Parker Livingston in the first 6 games. And that's one of the reasons why Parker was one of the leading receivers in the first 6 games. And it changed as the season went on. He finally got some familiarity with those guys, and they started clicking a little bit. People are also asking about the spring game. I spoke to someone close to that. I don't know if they're going to have a spring game or a spring practice, but I am hopeful based on something I talked to somebody last week about after mentioning this. I do think they're going to try to do something where there's a football on the field during that spring game festivities. Now, whether that's just a regular practice or what have you, but fingers crossed on that. Not sure what the answer is going to be quite yet, but they are thinking about bringing it back to some level. Maybe not exactly the way it used to be, because frankly, I thought the spring practice or spring game was always kind of, fruitless. It was just, how do you even keep score whenever you're changing quarterbacks and linemen and whatnot? There's not really 2 teams. So we'll see what they come up with, but I am hopeful that they find some kind of compromise.
Hey, D. Lewins has a good idea. Make it a competition like the NFL. Let's have punt, pass, and kick for the entire Texas team, and then they sign autographs after. There's your day of practice. So run some one-on-ones.
I want some real football. Don't do that to me, man. Don't do that to me. Give me some real football with pads that pop and
like a game of dodgeball at midfield, linebackers.
Oh, see,
wiffle ball.
I'm not showing up for that.
Into the end zone.
I don't think people will show up for that. I think people want the real McCoy. They don't want to be
wall ball
tricked. People don't
games of tag on Bevo Boulevard with the fans
hide and seek
circled around it. Yeah. I'm for all of it.
I want to read this real quick before we get to some ads. This from Sticky12 says, "Good morning, fellas. Hook 'em and shout out to my sister. She was accepted to UT yesterday, class of 2030."
A lot of acceptances going out, I think, yesterday as well. So I had a friend of mine whose son got it accepted to UT. Congratulations to everybody. Not everybody got in, by the way. So they may have had another opportunity to use the CAP program or one of those to go to University of Texas. But congratulations, Sticky.
Marco Mendoza. OTF will sponsor, not barbecue, corn dog eating contest between the OL and DL. OTF will sponsor that. There's an idea. I like that one.
What we have to buy like 2,000 corn dogs for those guys? Thanks for signing us up for that, Jerry.
We'll email State Fair and see if they can donate a few dozens.
I was about to say we need to work on getting a corn dog sponsor.
Yeah. I'm trying, man. It hadn't worked. Golly. I'm gonna have to throw up live on air to get one probably.
Oh man.
All right, let's go to this one. Stuck in Boulder weather. Can y'all please explain how the Ciani signing is any different than the Washington QB situation? One, dollar figures are categorically different. 2, Washington has a different contract than Wake Forest. And so that's how it's different. I also saw somebody ask another question about how does a guy sign with Texas without even visiting? He entered the portal literally, at 10 a.m. yesterday morning, and by 2 p.m. he was signed to Texas. He did visit sight unseen, or he did sign sight unseen. Jerry articulated earlier in this conversation about how that was, I think, worked with Brandon Collier, the guy that works with those. I'm sure he has an agent as well. But those kinds of things are happening these days in college football across the board, not just at Texas, everywhere.
All right, Jerry, why don't you tell us about Ridge Wallet this morning?
Yes, I can do that. That leather brick wallet you used to wear in your back pocket, those days are over. Done. Now say hello to the Ridge 2.0, the most refined version of the Ridge wallet. Ridge has been perfecting this wallet for 12 years. Everything is better on the Ridge 2.0. It's 10% lighter. Every gram matters in the Ridge Wallet 2.0. They found the perfect balance. It sounds like they did some wallet fasting to me, right? The Ridge fasting for their wallet. They made it more modular with improved cash straps, money clips, and AirTag attachments. It's improved surface design with Tonal logos and matching plated cash straps made with premium materials like aluminum, titanium, and carbon fiber. It holds up to 12 cards plus cash. There's over 50 styles and colors to choose from, including that UT color. You can even get a wallet that features every NFL, MLB, or college team. Perfect for holiday gifting, spring, birthday, spring break, graduation gifts, you name it, all of them. Ridge is having their biggest sale of the year of 2026 right now. Plus, all Ridge wallets have a new industry-leading built-for-life warranty. That sounds important. So even if your wallet is lost or stolen, they have got you covered. And in fact, losing your wallet is the worst. But with the Ridge Tracker card, you'll always know exactly where it is before panic mode kicks in. Perfect peace of mind for holiday travel and gifting year-round. Give the gifts that stay out of the junk drawer and find their way into morning routines, travels, and adventures for a limited time. Ridge is having a new sale, and that is get 10% off at ridge.com. And the code for that is on Texas. Again, ridge.com, code on Texas for 10% off. They'll ask where you heard about him. That's on Texas football, home of Portal Talk.
I'm going to tell everyone this morning about our friends at Prize Picks. And whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard. But in life and on Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend and elite hoops action that Jerry loves almost every night, the action never stops. Prize Picks lets you take control. And the national championship is right around the corner. Of course, we'll talk about it here in a minute. So this week, I locked in Carson Beck to have at least a passing touchdown, Mendoza to have more than 1.5 passing touchdowns, Indiana wide receiver Charlie Becker to have more than 29.5 receiving yards, and Miami running back Mark Fletcher to have more than 59.5 rushing yards. And with the new social feeds feature, you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you like my own, or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow Prize Picks partners like myself and tell or fade our picks with just one click. Prize Picks is now available in all 50 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and right here in the great state of Texas. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use code ONTEXAS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code ONTEXAS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And that's Prize Picks, where it's good to be right.
Hey, we need to hit on last night, women's basketball. South Carolina beat Texas. It was 68-65. One of the things I wanted to hit on there is, and I'm looking, I know people said there's some rumors that Aaliyah Crump may be out for the season. Let's hope. I'm really hoping that's not the case, because what I saw from Texas early in the season was she's a really talented freshman, but that other wing scorer opposite, obviously, Jordan Lee, and then with Madison Booker playing within them and around them with Rory Harmon, Texas had real offensive firepower that took some of the pressure off Madison Booker on a night-in, night-out basis and gave her more space to operate. And I think that Crump injury has been really big for Texas offensively. And I'm really hoping they get her back, because if they get her back and she has enough time to get back in playing shape and in the flow, Texas will be a really tough out, because they had more scoring, more perimeter threats on the court when she was in. She's played 9 games this year. She's averaging like 12.5 a game, played well when it counted a lot of times. That thing offensively easily looked like the best team in parts Vic has had at Texas. With her out, that really changes them offensively. We talked about this because now there's enough scouts into this season for teams. They've seen South Carolina's now seen Texas twice, and there's so many games that you can build your analytics and scouting reports in that Texas has more pressure on them offensively than when they had Aaliyah Crump. It's an easier team from a defensive standpoint to scout, game plan, make game plans for, and keep that Texas scoring against quality opponents. If you can keep that in the 60s, then that puts a lot of pressure, low 60s. That puts a lot of pressure on Madison Booker to have big games every time out. And that's just not going to be the reality. What was she, 11 of 25 last night, took a ton of tough contested shots. Hopefully they can get Aaliyah Crump back, because I think that will help open up their offense, Blake, if we have an update there.
Up to the minute update. I just asked, and nothing has been decided. There's some people in chat saying, "Oh, I saw she's redshirting." Blah blah blah. Nothing has been decided yet as far as her. She continues to progress, but as far as an actual decision goes, none has been made at this time.
Yeah. Somebody said, I thought they got girls in the portals who are shooters. One of them hadn't played all season. So one of the girls they got out of the portal, I don't think she's played all season. The girl that I think from Missouri that could shoot it, I think she's been out all season. And I might be wrong on that, but I think so. But they need to get Crump back to help open up that floor for Harmon more and for Madison Booker, take some of that scoring pressure off of her, because I was really excited watching them early in the season. I said, okay, they have the offensive parts because everybody, you got to go beat. Ultimately, if you get to a game against UConn, you got to be able to score the basketball. They shoot 40% from three, which is a ridiculous number in the women's game. They're going to force you to make perimeter shots to beat them, and they're going to make perimeter shots.
Let's see. We got some more super chats this morning, guys. Jeff Carey, thank you as always, says, "Is 2027 a real rebuilding year?"
Shouldn't be.
If you lose 5 first-round draft picks, it's a rebuilding year. I mean, it all depends how well you do in the portal.
Yeah.
But and it also depends on how some of your young guys come along. I mean, frankly, what's Derek Cooper look like?
Yeah.
Is he a team leader in year 2? Is Ty Anthony Smith back for a senior year?
Yeah.
Some of those kind of guys. Alex January would be probably a senior at that point. We'll see. Cade Phillips would be back.
Yeah.
Another what we think would be a big time player. Xavier Filsaime. It would definitely be a transition year. I don't know about the term rebuilding, to Jerry's point, but if you have KJ Lacey, who I think right now has the goods to be a starting quarterback, it could be a transition year as opposed to a rebuilding year. That would be my hope, Jeff.
Yeah.
And then Sean here says, when does the decision on playoff movement from 12 to 16 teams happen? And do y'all think it will go to 16 teams?
Well, like everything with the NCAA, they're arguing over it now. So the last I read, and this was yesterday, reporting from Heather Dinich by ESPN, and I mentioned this, the 2 leagues that control what the college football playoff looks like are the Big Ten and the SEC. Those 2 teams, or those 2 players, have to come together and decide what it looks like. If they don't agree to changes, it just stays at 12. Okay? The SEC wants 16 teams. The Big Ten wants 24. So the Big Ten is willing to go from 12 to 16 the next couple of years if the SEC will acquiesce and go to 24 the following 2 years. Well, the SEC is not willing to do that at this point. Greg Sankey is saying we can't agree to that at this point. So what do we get out of that, us fans? We probably are going to get a 12-team college football playoff format in the same way that we got it last year, or this year, excuse me. That's what it looks like it's headed. They have till the January 23rd, though, Sean, to make this a final decision. So that's kind of what we're waiting on.
And then Jerry's Corn Dog says, at what point do we screw the NCAA and get a commissioner?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They actually, so there was a conference this week in DC, or suburban DC, that basically asked, people, do they want to? Hey, I've got to take a phone call. I'm sorry, guys.
Save that and come back to it.
Yeah, yeah, we'll come back.
By the way, I just want to say this. We should sleep with our phones next to our ear at night during the portal era. I'm here to tell you, guys. I mean, doing this 2 decades plus now. This first year of the 2-week portal window is probably as busy on an hour-to-hour basis, just phone calls and texts, as I've ever been in this business. That's how crazy this is and how quickly this stuff is changing. I mean, this stuff changes literally by the minute right now. You could get a text from somebody that says, hey, look, you need to check on this. This could happen. And a minute later, you check on it and say, oh, we're thinking about it 5 minutes ago, but no, we're going a different direction because this conversation happened with an agent. This has been nuts. I'm telling you, nuts for the last 2 weeks. And as much as I've responded to texts and chased things down is in 2 decades in this business. It's kind of how one signing day used to be in the 2-week lead up to a first Wednesday in February signing day when it was mass hysteria. But nowadays it's much more so because there's so many rumors out there and people, you have to chase down rumors, which are pretty much rumors or bad, but you still have to chase them down to confirm. It's been wild. Love it, but it has been. I felt like I've been in a NASCAR car for the last 2 weeks with no. You don't get to change your tires. You're going until those things blow out. That's what it feels like to me. No pit crew. Just keep going.
It will be nice when it settles down a little bit. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Let's see here, Jerry. Let's take a question from Nathaniel. He says, does this mean, with the recent commitment as of yesterday, that Baker is sliding into guard now?
Look, I was told yesterday that Ciani is a tackle. So I think that is pretty clear because this is something we've talked about. The conversation has been had. It could be a kick in for a year, then kick back out scenario. And that it's not common, but it's also not that uncommon. These things happen. It happens when offensive linemen are young. A lot of times some guys will start their career at guard, then kick out as they get a couple of years experience. I mean, there's been some tremendous tackles that started their career at guard and kicked out at different times, and especially later as they got more experience. Lael Collins played guard at LSU his first year, right? Evan Neal at Alabama played guard multiple years, then kicked out. So this stuff happens a lot, and I'm not comparing Brandon Baker to those guys. I'm just saying the scenarios are out there, but I do think he's going to, as of today, kicks in the guard.
And then kind of a follow-up here. Do you think Baker's big and strong enough for guard? Other than Campbell, we've been pushed around too much. Says that he hopes that Becton changes some of his philosophy and gets these guys a lot stronger.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he's going to get strong. Obviously, the offensive linemen, those guys get stronger as the longer they're in a college strength and conditioning program. I think Brandon Baker can be a quality guard. Yeah, I do. Look, he had a valuable year of experience. The last half of the year, he played some good football for Texas, underrated football. But yes, I do. His combination of that length and footwork and body reactive quickness at guard, I think he can be a quality guard. Is he going to be a road grading guard? I'm not saying that, but that's not really what Texas scheme is either currently as it stands.
And then we got some more super chats that came in, Jerry. So let's jump over to those. Kozler7 here says, will we get a behind the scenes article for the portal period?
If I can remember it. We'll probably have something. Yeah. Me, Bobby, myself, and CJ will probably put something together. That might take an hour on the phone talking about dates and things that happened, looking back in text messages from the last 2.5, 3 weeks.
That's what I was going to say. Just scroll through the 60,000 text messages and go from there. Spanish Steve here. Thank you. Spanish Steve says, has Texas stopped the pursuit of Seton?
We're not saying that. Look, even after Ciani, committed yesterday, signed with Texas. There were still discussions being had, but it's all gotta work at the end of the day. And a big part of that is left tackle versus right tackle, and there's a lot of things that have to happen through these conversations. But they were still having talks yesterday after Ciani signed. We'll see where that goes. There's a lot of things there. I mean, how many visits does Seton want to go on before he makes a decision? He's at Mississippi State. That clearly will not be his last one. There will be others. This process with him could take a little longer, I think.
And I've had a couple of baseball questions asking about when Bases Loaded is going to return. Early February on that one. And then Kyle here wants to know who do I think the Sunday guy will be. I actually put something out on TexasFootball.com the other day, some insider baseball notes since they started practice on Monday. But yeah, Valanis Friday, Harrison Saturday, Sunday, way too early to tell, to be determined at this time. I think we'll have a better idea here in a couple of weeks. They did their basic practice stuff when you start the season the first few days, and I believe they'll start scrimmaging today. They may have yesterday. I haven't found that out yet. And
I want to follow that up because somebody asked in the chat about a weekly basketball show. We are beginning that again. Now that we're in the SEC play, we're going to begin that weekly. Jeff Howe and myself are actually recording that show later today about hoops, and we will start to have that weekly hoop show through the rest of the season. Now that we kind of got through the portal madness part of this from a programming standpoint and just time we had there with how much time the portal was taking in terms of video production and all that stuff, we will now start doing our weekly basketball show through SEC regular season SEC schedule. By the way, I think Texas is not Joe Sterling, one of the signees, is coming in from California for the A&M game. He hadn't been on campus since his visit. Obviously, Bo Ogden will be there. We'll see where Austin Gooseby is tomorrow. But yes, we're going to cut one show today, and we're going to start working on getting some guests on that basketball show throughout the rest of the regular season.
All right, let's see. We got another super chat. This one from our friend Longhorn Frenzy. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you as always. He says, I think some of these high school athletes are going to fall through the cracks with the way the portal is now. Schools like Lamar, Stephen F. Austin, Abilene Christian, etc., could benefit.
Yeah, look, I think there's going to be a lot of legitimate Division I talent that ends up bumping down. And I've just called this process going to be A-ball to AA to AAA in major leagues. It's going to be MLB. It's going to be minor league to MLB. That's where all this is setting up. I do think there's going to be some guys that end up in the FCS level that had no business from a talent perspective ever starting in the FCS. And that I think is coming. It's already started. And then guys that end up in a G5 that athletically and upside wise were easy Power 4 guys evaluations 3 or 4 years ago. I just think that's where we're going with it. I talked about the couple of 26s that Texas is looking at right now that they're possibly Angelo DeCinci, offensive lineman out of Lombard, Illinois, about 45 minutes west of Chicago, which I think Northwestern, Chip Kelly, Jerry Neuheisel were at his school yesterday. Obviously, Brian Kelly, new head coach at Northwestern. I think Northwestern's about to offer him. He is a Power 4 talent. I mean, he's 6'5", 280, dunking the basketball in a break in a high school basketball game off a dribble. I mean, he's an athletic kid who's kind of – some of these guys are getting lost in this portal nowadays, and they're ended up having to start at A-ball or AA. And, hey, man, if you're really good, you skip AAA and go straight to the majors. I mean, and some of these guys have to make decisions. I mean, a kid like this kid in Illinois I'm talking about, look, he can go to Yale. He can probably start early at Yale. Get through 2 or 3 years there, 3 years more than likely. And then you end up like Michael Bennett, who came out of Atlanta area with no major offers. He went to Yale. He really developed, and now he's got a sweet NIL deal from Oregon for his last year in college football. I think you're going to see a lot. Kids are going to have to make decisions there too. What do you really – you have to be very smart. You have to have really smart people around you, I think, to help guide you through this process of where things are at now. I mean, some of the best decisions some of these guys are going to make that are some schools show late interest in them after the dust settles is to go start. If you're a great student, go start at that Ivy League school. If it's Ivy League's not in play for you, go start at the G5 level and go kick butt there and see the reward after 2 or 3 years. So I think you're going to have to be very cerebral and smart about the decisions you make moving forward as that guy who was a no doubt D1 player and prospect 5 years ago, that now, because of where the portal is at and where we're headed in college football, you may have to, it may be smart to start a level lower or 2 levels lower. Go be a starter, go kick butt, go get that tape out there, because there's a lot of players that have done very well in the NIL space as their careers have moved on, as they've gotten to be older players, because they were forced to, sometimes you choose to start at that FCS or G5 level and just go kick butt on the field, and great things happen from an NIL perspective, especially with quarterbacks. Quarterbacks have to be very careful moving forward.
Okay. Bobby, I want to go back to you because you were in the middle of answering this super chat here, if I can find it. I believe it was from Jerry's Corn Dog.
Yeah.
Says, at what point do we say screw the NCAA?
So they're actually meeting and talking about having a committee of how do we look at this thing from a totally different viewpoint? How do we maybe extricate ourselves from the NCAA, set up football and basketball perhaps differently than every other sport, since the revenue of those two sports are so fundamentally different from everything else, and the payment to players is so fundamentally different. And I am not, you guys know, I am not one to herald an Aggie, right? But Trev Alberts, the A&M athletic director, yesterday said something that I thought was right on. He said, let's just think of this totally different than we have ever before and start all over. How would it look, or how should it look, if we started from point A? Like right here, right now, take the NCAA out of it. How should we set up college football and college basketball all anew? And I think that, I'm not one to sit there and bang an Aggie drum for anybody, as anybody would know. I think that is how college football needs to start. I think there are elements of college football that are great. I think that where we've gotten to now is too far. And so I want to see some real change. And right now they are looking at it. The conference commissioners have put a committee together to start contemplating that sort of thing. Will it ever get anywhere? I don't know. My biggest problem, again, is not that we don't have capable people in the Big Ten or SEC office or at these universities. It's that there's too many cooks in the kitchen. The first thing that needs to happen is we need to get it down from 136 to a manageable number. All 136 teams are not even and shouldn't be playing in this. So if they're asking me what has to happen first, that should be what the commissioner and or whoever looks at. The problem is, I guarantee you, in that room about what college football should look like are going to be people that represent the number 134th team in attendance. And so Greg Sankey has a good saying: you don't accomplish big things with a lot of people in the room. You accomplish decisive things with fewer people in the room, because then they can be bold and people go after them. And I think he's right about that. Not everybody needs to be in the room, because that's the way it is.
Hey, by the way, I think it probably basketball fans might have seen this, but the NCAA the other day, my mind was blown. The NCAA basketball transfer portal doesn't begin during the NCAA tournament. They actually moved the date back. Wow, who would have thought that was a good idea? So
Yep.
You mean you're not playing the second weekend as a staff trying to recruit in the portal at the same time?
Couple of updates, by the way, just there. Mason Barton is still on campus right now. He is expected to head to Mississippi State at some point today. That's the Jackson State offensive lineman. But he was still on campus as of this morning. Texas is hoping to get some visitors in this weekend via the portal. We'll wait and see what occurs there, but should be some interesting news developing over the weekend. I'm not exactly sure where a lot of things are headed, but I am told that Nick Brooks, guys, the former Longhorn offensive line, may actually be headed to Alabama. So that might be one to watch for.
All right, Bobby, why don't you tell us about South Point Dodge one more time, please, sir?
I can do that, my friends, the Starks over at South Point Dodge. There's nothing like Texas football, and nothing runs like a Ram. South Point Dodge is Austin's Ram headquarters, and during their wrap-up year sales event that actually is going into the new year here, the deals are hotter than a Saturday in DKR. Huge savings on Ram trucks and Jeep SUVs, plus exclusive perks for on-Texas football listeners, 90 days to make your first payment, and we'll ship your new ride anywhere in Texas or beyond. Over 600 vehicles in stock. So whether you need a workhorse or a weekend warrior, we've got you covered. Visit South Point Dodge or come see us off I-35 in Austin. Get to the point, South Point Dodge.
Thank you, Bobby. And we got time for just a couple of more questions before we get out of here. So let's take Nathaniel's question here. He says, are there any other needs that y'all think Texas needs to address still in the portal?
Yes. Absolutely. I think they need an overhang linebacker edge to go pass rusher. I don't think you can ever have enough of those guys. And I do think for Muschamp scheme to be multiple, I do think there's a need there. That's why they are interested in Prince Will Umanamilan. I mean, that one's pretty obvious. Obviously, there's a need for another offensive lineman. People can debate, hey, is that a guard? Is that a backup tackle? However you want to discuss that, there's still a need. Then you have to make it all work. But there's still a need for another lineman just from a spring practice perspective. Because, again, I mean, Texas is up to 14 that'll be around for spring practice on the offensive line. I think they were under 10 a week and a half ago. They're up to 14, but you ideally want to have 3 deep of offensive linemen for spring practice and in an off season headed into a season. Nicholas Robertson will add one more when he gets to campus in June, late May, June. He's not an early enrollee. So there's a need there, Bobby. And let's see, I mean, possibility of an experienced wide receiver if somebody's there that could help fill out that room. I think that's possible. I think in a lot of other spots, they've done a good job filling needs, and there could always be somebody popping to the portal late, Bobby, that changes their mind at a position, but we're down to, 14 hours.
Yeah. 14 hours for them to declare and put their paperwork in. They can last until Tuesday, probably before their actual name appears in the portal. The big thing at Texas right now, I mean, they've got a huge junior day coming up tomorrow. I mean, absolutely big. And so that happening right in the middle of the portal season is going to be difficult. But that's going to be, this is the time. This is the player acquisition time frame now, Jerry, of college football. I mean, the portal and then recruiting, all happening right now. You mentioned at the outset of this show that there are 2 guys in the 2026 class that Texas is taking a look at, one of whom, Kenny Baker, went and looked at yesterday. Texas also looking at offensive linemen up in Illinois that could add. So all in all, it's kind of, I wish I could give you a description of what I'm being told the football facility looks like right now, with everybody coming and going. The coaches were on the road, a lot of them in California yesterday. It's a little bit of a crazy time. We'll see where things go here with the Longhorns, but I feel like Texas is going to stay on Prince Will Umanamilan. We'll see if they're able to get a visit. Beyond that, I don't know that we'll see what happens with Jordan Seaton as well. Obviously, I can't say Texas is unequivocally out of that. I just don't know that it makes as much sense as it once did.
And we had a few super chats that rolled in here at the last minute. So I'm going to jump back over to those. Jerry's Corn Dog with another one regarding the playoffs says, last question. After this last playoff, do we see less G5 or no G5 in? They need their own playoff. They will never compete for a national title in the current playoff.
I think that's
one in.
Yeah.
They'll get one in is the bottom line.
Yeah, I do think there will be some – look, if it stays at 12, I do think there's going to be some subtle changes. They can't have what happened this year. They can't do that.
I think some people thinking there should be an NIT tournament are right.
Yeah.
Make the minor bowls be NIT related. That's one idea among many.
And then Kozer7 here says, Jerry, thoughts on the point shaving case? It looks like it was the smaller D1 schools.
Yeah, this time it was. Look, I think these are tip of the iceberg things. I've been suspicious watching some stuff 2 years ago. Very, very, very. I think it goes on more than we think right now. Basketball's easy.
I was going to say basketball is really easy to do it in, and one player can affect the game so much. Look, it was the only what I would call a major school, and this is actually a mid-major that was involved, is Tulane. Everything else was like Northern Illinois, I'm not saying Northern Illinois, but it was like directional school central. The idea of that, and here's my problem with it all. The NCAA a month ago said, "Oh, well, we should allow these players to also bet on pro sports." I mean, this is the same. They're coming with these allegations and everything. At the same time, they're saying, "Oh, let's go ahead and let them bet on this."
Well, let's just think about this for a second. Say there's a college kid that gets wrapped up and addicted to gambling his NIL money away on NFL games or pro sports, and he gets down $30,000. You think he's susceptible to being talked into shaving a point here or there to get himself out of debt? I mean, do we think that's possible? That's why that was so stupid.
Yeah, well, thankfully, the member schools stepped up and decried it. But that's the kind of stuff that comes out of the NCAA. And that's why you can't trust them it's like, how many members of the NCAA does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Yeah.
It's that kind of joke. I mean, none of them can do it. So it's infinite. I mean, that's the answer.
Yeah.
And Bobby, our final one is from Juan Garza for you. He wants to know if you're going to give any hints on the phone call that you just had to take.
No, I gave you all a couple of notes there that I think are fair.
Wait, it wasn't State Fair corn dogs?
No. Young man from Jackson State remains on campus. Talked about that a little bit. Texas preparing for Junior Day heavily. They hope to have some portal visitors this weekend. I would also say this. I think once they get through this, today is the last day their own players can go in the portal. Okay. Then you really have a sense of, okay, where are we at? We know what we have. Is there anything else that we absolutely have to address or that we want to improve a little bit? But they can't just go figure this all out. There's some things going on right now where we'll see if Texas, second consecutive day, by the way, Texas did not lose a player to the portal. So maybe that retention or attrition rate is slowing, which is a good thing. They want that to slow in a major way.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by South Point Dodge. We want to thank them, along with Hexclad, Ridge Wallet, Prize Picks, and Andy Ludicky for sponsoring today's show. Bobby, what's for folks later today?
We got a bunch of stuff. I think we got 3:00 show. The live stream with myself, Jerry, and Rod Babers are going to be on that. We'll be talking a little bit of portal talk. Also, some upcoming. We'll talk a little bit more about the Junior Day tomorrow, as well as any other news or notes that happen along the way. And if there is news like yesterday with Melvin Ciani committing, we will break in, obviously, with updated content for you guys here. Also, come check us out over at ontexasfootball.com. We're putting news up there every minute of every time we get any kind of news right now. We're doing that. Make sure you subscribe. Just $1 for 1 month right now. It's a special Portal Madness offer. That offer is a limited time offer only. Visit us at ontexasfootball.com.
And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell so you're notified anytime we go live, post content, whatever it may be. And between that and on TexasFootball.com, we got you covered around the clock. Of course, we'll be back on Monday morning. We hope you have an outstanding weekend this weekend. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.